Hello again, Delt Nation. Vince Russo here. It is now 11:16 a.m. and a lot is happening. And to be honest, I'm just trying to keep up with all of it. So we're having a good time here thus far on the Delt Day of Giving. Trying to scroll over here and update for everyone. We are at 175 gifts in the door for $35,546. So a big round of applause to all of you in Delt Nation that are helping make this happen today. So far, so great. And we are just, if my math is correct, 10 gifts away from completing the 1858 challenge. As mentioned, if we get to 185 donors, when we get to 185 donors, we will unlock a gift of $1,858. So super exciting stuff. Some other challenges that we have happening throughout the day. There's ones for military delts, Delt Pride that are contingent on donations in the door. So I know Cyrus has one for Delt Pride. That one is at 4 out of the 15 gifts needed over the next day to unlock an additional $1,000 for Delt Pride. Ken Keys has stepped up once again for Beta Chapter, and he has issued a generous challenge to increase the impact of Beta Chapter's educational fund. So for every dollar donated to their educational fund, he will match dollar for dollar gifts up to $5,000. So far, we are just at the beginning of that one. 4 out of 5 new Order of the Sea donors. Congratulations to them and welcome. The Order of the Sea is our most exclusive giving society. It's any giving over $1,000 to the annual Delt Fund in one year, the fraternity's fiscal year running from August 1st to July 31st, and that comes with a lot of really cool perks. So really excited to welcome some new folks into the Order of the Sea. Continue to visit us, as you see below, www.deltsgive.org. You can find all this information and more, but really just super grateful for everyone that has stepped up and really made today so special so far. And we still have quite a long way to go. Looking again at the ticker, we still got a little over a day, actually 1 day, 39 minutes, 42 seconds and counting. So very excited, and even more excited, in 10 minutes, we will have the International President Steve Paquette. I get to go one-on-one with him and pick his brain about the state of Delta Ta Delta as we transition to an online Carnia, as we look to what the fall semester might look like, really get a chance to hear what some of those Arch chapter conversations look like right now. So very excited. Hope everyone will tune in. Please, beyond the gifts and all the generosity that everyone's given thus far, sharing, commenting. Ray Benchop, really appreciate the kind comment below. We're seeing those as they roll in on YouTube and Facebook, so that all goes such a long way. Share this with your family, friends, Delt brothers, those that maybe haven't connected with the National Fraternity in a little while. Let them know that there is so much good to do during a time where we all know that it's very much needed. So some notes along the way. We've granted at the foundation over $20,000 through the Delts Helping Delts Fund to those that are struggling with the impact of COVID-19. We try not to talk about it too much throughout the day because I'm sure you all have heard enough about these uncertain times, right? But we have stepped up and been able to do that solely because of the generosity of Delts from across the world. And so we thank you for helping us meet the need for those young men. Throughout the day, we'll have some special recognition for our seniors who have just graduated or are in the process of graduating from their various institutions on the 130 campuses where we have the Delt flag flying. So stick around for those. There's some really awesome messages from some of our most dedicated volunteers. So really excited to share all of those with you. But as I take a quick step away, don't go too far. We're going to keep the stream up and running so that Steve can join in whenever he is ready, and we will get that conversation rolling. But I know I'm going to step out and grab a little more coffee, and hope everyone is staying safe and staying well here. This is the Delt Day of Giving. 1 day, 1 Delt, the opportunity to make an impact on one individual. So I hope that you will help us do that at www.deltsgive.org. We'll be right back here on the Delt Day of Giving. All right, so we are back here on the Delt Day of Giving. Glad to be with you all. And joining me in just a moment will be the International President of the fraternity, Steve Paquette. Again, a quick update. We are closing in on $37,000 and are just 5 gifts away from unlocking another $2,000 roughly for our 1858 challenge. So keep up the great work. Thank you all so very much for helping us make such an incredible impact today on the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving. Without further ado, I am going to bring in Steve Paquette, who, as I mentioned, is the International President of Delta Tau Alpha Fraternity. Steve, it is great to see you. Thank you for joining.
Oh, my pleasure, Vince. Good morning. As usual, you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that. It's certainly easy to get excited whenever so many delts are stepping up and making this such a special day. So far, so good. How are things on your end?
Good. It's a beautiful day in Syracuse, which you don't get to say every day. So we're kind of enjoying the sunshine and the good weather and the new normal.
I see that. That's awesome. So tell me, let's jump right into it. What has it been like guiding the fraternity through just such an interesting time in history?
Well, it's they say men plan and God laughs. So we certainly had a certain set of things that Jack and I together and the Arts chapter decided we were going to make sure we got done between January and the end of my term. And we were, I think, doing a good job of reaching those. And thankfully, we got through the whole conference season. And then the world kind of closed down. We were disappointed that we have to defer a couple of installations and a number of initiations until the fall, but I think it's a measure of delts and of men to see how they respond in challenging times, and I'm really proud of the way our volunteers and particularly our professional staff has stepped up to make sure that we continue to provide good quality content for the undergraduates while they try to make some sense of what we're going through.
You mentioned the undergraduate from that micro level. What do you think has been the most difficult challenge undergraduates are facing from your perspective and what you've seen?
Well, I think it's the uncertainty and the speed with which this happened. Many of them were considering spring break or returning from spring break. We just had a wonderful conference season in January and February. They were all looking forward to the remainder of the semester, their JDRF events, their semi-formals and formals, and one of our brothers to graduation. And that uncertainty, to a large extent, continues. We're not exactly sure what the fall will look like. And so I think that's really, really challenging. And that's why we did things with the help of the foundation, like the Talkspace program, that gave undergraduates an opportunity to have someone they could share these feelings and concerns with on a mental health level. And then we provided the fireside chats and the different touch points that we had with smart alumni and professionals in various areas to try to provide real content. I know I had a chance to write a letter to moms and dads and let them know that we were going to do that for their sons as they returned home unexpectedly. And we got some really good warm feedback from the parents appreciating that we were providing that level of support.
That's fantastic. That's some really awesome news at a time where I'm sure everyone is happy to hear things like that. On the flip side, from your seat, as the chair of the Arts chapter and the chair of the board, what have been some of the challenges, even just logistically, decision-making wise? What are some of the things that you have seen from your side of things?
Well, first you ground this in history. And we look back, and in World War I and the time of the flu pandemic, at the same time as World War I, brothers had to step up and make some real sacrifices and choices. Of course, World War II, when we didn't even have an election for the Arts chapter one time, we just carried the folks over into service that had been there and canceled the carnias. So we've had these kinds of experiences before, 9/11, the Great Recession, So we've weathered it before, and we'll weather this again. But the challenge for us is to be able to figure out exactly how to provide the best service to our undergraduates, to take that face-to-face content through all the leadership programming that we do, through all of the things like the President's Academy, the Chapter Advisors Academy, all those leadership experiences, and try to translate them into a world where we can't do what fraternity does best, which is that one-on-one human contact. And we're getting there with, again, with the help of a really smart, dedicated staff. We're transitioning into that hopefully temporary new normal, so that we can do a really good job in the fall, even if it looks a little different.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I get a sense of optimism from you. Tell me, what are some other things that during all of this have given you some hope as we sort of, trek into, as you said, some uncertainty?
Well, I mean, one thing is the level of engagement of our volunteers and our undergraduates on things like these fireside chats, stepping up and volunteering to be a part of the virtual carnia that we're going to be doing during the summer, being available to us. House corporation officers had a really tough job in order to figure out how to keep our guys safe and maintain the property well and deal with the financial pressures. And at the fraternity level, we tried to do everything that we could in order to help, and we're continuing to do that. One of the really warm moments, I think, in all of this was first the opportunity to do the grants for good to the undergraduates that were struggling. They lost internships, they lost part-time jobs. International students couldn't get back home. And so that pot of gold that we had accumulated at the foundation that we really hadn't tapped into a little bit was available, and it helped dozens of young guys make it through a tough time. And the other piece of that story was so neat, I think. It shows who Delts are as people. There's two guys who were in pretty tough shape enough to ask for this money, sent it back. And they said, hey, you know what? I thought we'd let you know that after this money arrived, or after this promise of this money arrived, I found some other sources of revenue. I got another job, or I got some funding. Here, give this to somebody that needs it a little bit more than I do. And I thought that it really spoke volumes to who we are as Delts. So, that was one of the high points, I think.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Seeing the values in action is always incredible, but that's really cool to hear that there's been those kinds of stories. Tell me, again, from your vantage point, what is the importance of the partnership between the fraternity and the foundation that people might not recognize at face value?
A majority of our money comes from dues revenue, and another piece of our money comes from investments that we made in local housing stock through mortgages that we write. And so a little bit of cash here and there from some licenses that we sell and that sort of thing. But the real value added that the foundation provides is the ability to do that kind of quality programming that we couldn't do without their help. And so when you want to pull 130, give or take, presidents from across the country into one place and teach them how to do their job at the beginning of their term, or identify real leaders and teach them how to be good brothers on the front end and good citizens on the back end through programs like Ignite and the Charge. We can't do that work without the foundation. Of course, the other thing the foundation does is it provides that stability and longevity. That money is there for the long haul, being managed and taken care of by a strong board of directors that takes care of that. And so we know that that's the future of the fraternity because it's protected well. So there'd be so much less that we could do if we didn't have the help of the foundation. We get the basics done, but that value-added stuff that our guys need and come to expect in the Delt world doesn't happen without the foundation.
Well, we certainly appreciate the support and know that it goes a long way the other way around, right? There's no foundation if there's no fraternity and fraternity board of directors that guides and stewards the organization into a good spot. With the virtual Carnia coming up, unfortunately, as we know that you will roll off of the board and your term will eventually come to an end as the international president. Tell me, would just love to hear a moment or something that really stuck out to you that was super meaningful over the past 2 years.
Well, one of the things that was personally satisfying to me was to see the President's Academy, what we call PresX, come to fruition. We did it for the first time. As I moved along the board and moved, fortunately, through the chairs, it always occurred to me, and in conversation with others, why wouldn't we make sure that everybody had the same advantage and it drank from the same Kool-Aid and read the same manuals and expressed the same values all together in one time and place? But to say it is one thing. To have our staff be able to do it in the midst of planning for division conferences and all their other work right after a big Christmas break, and have our undergraduates respond to it was a big unknown until it happened, until we hit Texas and saw the way it was going to turn out. And it was, I got a chance to spend 2 or 3 blocks of time with the undergraduates, because we scheduled the AC meeting there so we'd all be together, at least at some points. And the way that they responded to it and the values they took away. One of the things that happened during the pandemic is we had this circle of undergraduate presidents that already knew each other from being in Texas together, had already touched base with one another in various calls and chat rooms and things like that, shared common experiences. And so we had the ability to call on that and to continue to use that, not in a way we were ever able to predict, but in a way that really made getting through this semester and getting into next fall successfully, a much easier proposition.
That's fantastic. The ability to create community, I think, is one of the things that makes fraternity, and especially this fraternity, so incredibly special. So to hear that among many other things was one of the outcomes is really awesome. Before we let you go, Steve, anything that you would like to make known to Delt Nation, or anything that you would like to share here on the Delt Day of Giving?
Well, I want all the Delts, wherever dispersed around the world, to realize that we're going to be just fine. The experience that we're having through this difficult time is different depending on what city you live in, what state you live in. I'm about ready to start week 10 of the lockdown in upstate New York. We've just started to crack the door open a little bit. Things are going to be different. We're going to need to adjust in some ways. But we are working as an arts chapter and as a professional staff to make sure that Delta experience may look a little different, but it's still going to be the same stuff that you experienced, whether you were first became a Delta in the 40s or the 50s, the 70s, or day before yesterday. And so don't worry, we'll be fine. We've been fine since 1858. This ain't going to knock us down. We need a little economic help. We're definitely going to need your support as alumni and as undergraduates. But we're going to be just fine with the leadership that comes up, and really going to be some exciting times for Delta Tau Delta as we move into the summer and into the fall. And don't forget Carnia. Carnia will happen. It'll just happen on a screen like this. We're going to actually be able to have some more intimate moments, in a way, if you will, because where people will usually be getting told in one place or another during a physical Carnia, you'll be able to jump into various chat rooms and Zoom calls and things like that, and see candidates for office being interviewed, listen to presentations. We're going to do some really good quality content. Staff's working night and day on making sure that the experience is a good one. So Carnia wasn't canceled. It's just kind of moved into a different format, like so many things in our lives, for a short time. But I think you're going to really like the product that you see. Jody Daneman, former international president and the guru of doing all this sort of TV work for us and production work at Carnia, is really being called to step up what he's had to do in the past, sort of work he does professionally every day, in order to make a really interesting product for it. He's pretty excited about it. So I'm hoping that we get a great turnout, and I'm looking forward to closing out that chapter successfully.
Well, Steve, thank you so much for taking some time today to join us for this chapter with the Delt Day of Giving. It's been a pleasure to have some time to chat with you and to hear updates and to hear a lot of positivity. That's really great, and I think it goes a long way, not only for today, but in just keeping spirits up in a time where I think everyone could use it. So really appreciate you taking that time.
My pleasure, brother. Good to be with you.
Good to see you. So that is Steve Paquette, the International President of Delta Tau Delta. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be live again in just a little bit to continue to keep everyone updated. As it stands, we have hit that 185. We've unlocked some additional money, and so we are now sitting at about $45,000. So thank you all so much. In just the time that Steve was on, we saw a bump of nearly $10,000. So thank you all so much. Continue to keep up the great work. Share all of this with your friends, your family, your Delt network. Let your brothers know that there are a lot of positive things happening around the fraternity and that the Delt Day of Giving is a chance to celebrate that. Signing off for now, but we'll be back in just a little bit. Stay tuned for more awesome content throughout the day, including Steve Vedra on at 2 p.m. to kick off our senior recognition ceremony. So until then, this is the One Day, One Delt Day of Giving.